All right, welcome to our big review for Computer Science 30, just kind of going over some of the things we did in Computer Science 20, and then we'll add to it as well and kind of make things a little more organized. We have done something that's very similar to this in 20. So if you're confident or you think you remember some of this, please try to make some of this code on your own. You'll notice it's divided into bigreview.js and gameutilities.js. So they are different things to do here. So you can take a read and see if there's any of these you think you can do. And then I recommend doing this afterwards. Now, if you are doing this on your own and then just checking the video, once you have all of this coded, I would probably come back to this video and see how we're going to use this code inside of Big Review. We're going to combine these two into one. And we are purposely making them into two separate files. So that's intentionally done. It's for organization. It's called encapsulation. So, all right. With that said, we are going to make what's called a class. So a class is part of object-oriented programming, and you're going to hear classes lots. Now to start, we're not going to make it, but basically that is what we're making. So let's just get to this first piece of code. Make a random number. Now we want to make these to be all functions. So normally we'd write a function and then we could name it something. So like get random, and we can give it parameters if we want. So the first thing we need to figure out is, well, I don't know, like how big of a number do I want? So we're going to want the user to give us a number. So I'm going to say max number that this can be. And it's going to be math.floor. Oh, so you know what? I'm going to actually go a little further behind that, actually. We'll do math.random first. Now, the problem with math.random is it gives you something between 0 and 1. And if you just hover over this, you can see it gives a number between 0 and 1. And so that's not going to work. So that's where this max is going to come in. So I want whatever value I get to multiply by the maximum number. So if my max is 8, and let's say the random number just gives me 1, well, 8 times 1, that's the biggest I can get. If I get 0.5, 8 times 0.5 is 4. And so that's where that maximum number is coming in. So that's that parameter we're asking for. And if you click on it, you can see that they do match. All right. Now, the only problem here is when we're doing cards. Oh, sorry. We're doing a card game. This is going to be the draw 2 cards for each people and compare them. So are they a pair? Comparing if they're a pair or a flush, or if you don't have a flush or a pair, then what is the highest card in either hand wins. If you're not sure what a flush is, don't worry. We'll get to that in a second. So when we're dealing cards, the lowest card you have is a 1. So right now, if I said the max was 13, because we have 13 cards, you would get 13 times 0, which is 0, which is a problem. So to fix that, we just add 1, no matter what. Now, if I go and do a console log on this, so console.log, actually I'm going to do an alert. It's going to make life a little easier, I think. I know at school you can't do the console.logs, so we'll just do an alert. And we got to save this somewhere, so we can do that as an alert. So let's go let's just do this fully properly. I could actually put this right inside an alert. So I just wanted to tell me whatever this comes out as. Now, the one big difference between this and maybe REPL is you can't just stop there. Like, it's not going to just run on its own. So we have to go to the index, and there's these little snippets. So if I just put an exclamation mark and I hit enter, then you're going to get most of what's on the REPL to start. The only thing that's missing is, well, what JavaScript pages are we looking for? And so then you're going to put script and then source and equals, and sorry, that's a shortcut. You hit enter and it fills the rest in for you. And for now, we just want to run game utilities. So game utilities.js. All right. So now if I hit save, nothing's going to happen still. So next we have to actually get this live server working. And of course the extensions are not on here. So when you're looking at yours, you're going to go to extension and live server. So you can install it. Just type it in there, live server, it'll be the first thing that comes up. You just click install. It shouldn't be a problem. And then it's supposed to show up right here. Now why it's not showing up, I'm not sure. All right, so I just had to close it and come back in, and you can see it says go live down here now. So if I just click on it, it will it'll bring up the website now. So I go live. Now before I do that though, right now I've actually just made the function. I never called the function anywhere, so it's not going to run if I just leave it like this. So I'm going to just get random, give a number, let's give it 10. All right, so now I hit save. So save is Control S, or you can go File, Save, or Control S a little quicker. So we go live. Now I'm open up my other screen. So 4.033, a bunch of decimals. We can hit refresh, and again we have the same thing, a bunch of decimals. The good thing is it does appear to be random. We're getting 5.6, so that's great. So far, so good. Okay, so there's our step 1. Now we want to get rid of those decimals. And to do that, it's a simple command. It is just math.floor. And if I leave this for a second, it says returns the greatest integer less than or equal to its numeric argument, meaning it gets rid of all the decimals. So I'm going to put a bracket around this. I want it to take whatever number this is and just get rid of the decimal. So now if I hit save, oh yes, I have prettier on, and I can show you that in class as well. So if I just go back here, and now you see I get 1. And if I refresh this, I get 10, 2, and so on. So perfect, it works. All right, so we can get rid of that for a second. So there we go, we've made a random number. The next thing we're gonna do is get a random suit. So you are allowed to take another function in your other function or use a function in another function, which is what we're going to do right now with getting the suits. So function get suit. All right, so what I want to do is there's 4 suits. So I need a random number from 1 to 4. And depending what number I get, that's what suit I want it to send out. Now, the first thing I'm going to do then is I'm going to use, now we've been doing a lot of let. We're going to do this in 30. We're going to start using const. So what const does is it's a little bit easier on the memory, meaning it takes less memory. So if something's not going to change ever, then you can use const. If that number that's in the variable is going to change, then you don't want to use const, you want to use let. So each time I call this function, I'm going to only get the random number once. So I'm going to say this constant number, and I'm going to get call the random function. So get random, and I said I want it to be 4 long, and this will call it. Okay, so this should call it. So I can get rid of that because we know that works, and it's going to get a number between 1 and 4. Now, depending what that number is, I want it to do something different. Now we're going to run into a bit of a problem here, because when I do get random, I actually want it to give me a number. Right now when I call get random, it actually calls an alert. So instead, we did returns last year, and there's 2 different ways we can do this. We could just write return, and what that would do is whatever number we get out of here, this function would turn into that number. So like let's say this comes out as 3, it would literally replace this get random, because that's the number, the name of the function, with 3. Now this might look like a little much for one line, so some of you might be more comfortable saying okay, const number or num, let's do random, is equal to, and then we can say okay, we're going to return random. So meaning whatever, I'm going to store this number that I get out of the random numbers into this variable, and then I'm going to return that variable. This is unnecessary to put on 2 different lines. Now how that helps us is when we call this function getSuit, and it wants to go use this other function we already made, then it's actually going to get a number out of this between 1 and 4. So this will get replaced with a number, whatever it returns. So hopefully that makes sense. and hopefully somewhat remember what we're doing here. Now, just for ease, I'm not going to split up the next ones into multiple lines. It's going to take way too long. So we're going to use an if statement. So let's just say if the number is equal to 1, what do we want to happen? Now, well, if it's 1, I want to return clubs. Meaning, if this function is called, and we get 1 as a random number, wherever that get suit is, it should say clubs. It should replace get suit with clubs. And we'll try this in a second, but first, I don't want it to be a 1 in 4 chance of keep on messing this up. So let's just do the other ones. Now, if it is not that, we're going to do an else if. And remember, else if only checks if the other one above it isn't true. So let's just say if num is equal to 2, then what do we want to happen? Well, we want to return another one, so let's say diamonds. So the word diamonds. All right. We should have, to make this look a little nicer, there we go, semicolons, and one more time, else if, and now I'll write this one a little different. We still have if num is equal to 3. And rather than do these curly braces, you can actually do this all in one line as if it was a sentence. So if the number is equal to 3, then I want you to return, and you can write it right here, hearts. So a little shorter, a little more concise. And we can do that one more time for our last suit. Now here we can do an else if, or we can just do an else. Else just means if it's any other number. In our case, it must be 4. We'll return spades. All right, so I think we have all 4 suits here now. And again, that else is the number 4. So now let's call this and see what happens. So we're going to call get suit. Now we don't have any parameters here. Now you might be thinking, well, we could do this get random, like maybe we don't want that many suits, but the less parameters we take in, the better. And okay, so get suit. Now if we do this, we're going to see nothing, because nowhere do we have an alert here. Okay, now so instead of these returns, these could be alerts, but it's actually better if we just alert. Alert. Okay, so let's look what's going to happen here. It will see alert. The computer will see alert. Okay, and then whatever's inside of it, it's going to show on the screen. It's going to run get suit, and actually you can see the 4 possible options here are clubs, diamonds, hearts, or spades. Those are the 4 things that get suit can turn into. So get suit will run. It'll go and call the function get random, get a random number, and it will spit out one of these 4 things. And again, those are the 4 possible things it could spit out. So let's just hit save. And prettier kind of makes it all look nicer. So let's go here. And you can see already it says diamonds. And if we keep on diamonds, clubs, hearts, it looks like it's going to say all of them. There we go, spades. Perfect. Everything is working exactly as we want it. I think this is an extra one. Just going to close it out. Perfect. So now we made a random suit. And to do that, all we have to do right now is get suit. And you will actually get a suit out of it, which is perfect. That's what we want. All right, what do we have to do next? It says print a card that person has, including a jack, queen, and king. So we have all the information now. We can make a random card, and we can make a random suit. Now, this part for the printing, all I want to happen, because we're doing the game utilities here. These are all the little things that our game would need, not necessarily how they interact with each other. So here, what I want to be able to do is just, if I say, okay, this is card 1, I want it just to instantly print out what suit it is. What suit, what number. All right, so I'm going to call this a function, print card. And here we will have, we're going to have some variables. So we said we need the card number and we need the suit. Because again, we just want to take whatever that is. And so because if the person gets 13, it has to say jack, or sorry, 11 they get jack, 12 they get queen, 13 they get king, 1 they get an ace. So we don't just have the card number. Also suit All right, so ideally, we're going to do so if the card is less than 11, then what I want to do is I want to return, and here, well, again, we'll do it in two different ways. We'll do it with curly braces so it looks closer to what we want. What we want is the card number plus, and now we're concatenating these. So it's going to do whatever number, card number here, you can see again they're attached, and some words. You need to put a space here, otherwise they're going to be right next to each other, and then of, and then whatever suit. So like the 3 of diamonds. Okay, so that's where that suit comes in. And that's it. Now, if we just put that, nothing's going to happen. Maybe what you're probably thinking is, hey, I need to make this into an alert. All right, but I want to be able to use this somewhere else. And I want a little bit more control of this. So I'm actually going to just return this. You're going to see a lot of this is returns. We're going to heavily use this. So return. Card, so like 3 of diamonds. That's what print card is going to turn into. Which, okay, that's easy if it's a card. However, if it's 11 or anything else, we might want an ace. I think I actually made the ace be 14 in this one. So next we'll do if else, and the next one we can check is if the card num is equal to 11, then what do we want to happen? So again, I'll use curly braces one more time, and we are going to return it. Again, we want this to spit out some kind of words, and I want to say 11 is always jack, so jack of, and then whatever suit. So we'll concatenate that with suit. Okay. And then we can do another else if. This one I'm going to do a little different again. So this time we'll do card num is of 12. So that's going to be our queen. And then just in a single line, I'm going to say, okay, return. So I want you to say queen of, and then again we can concatenate that of the suit. So this is just a one-liner. If else if the card is 12, then I want you to say queen of that whatever suit, queen of diamonds. And then else if the card num is equal to 13, then we're going to return king of, and then again plus suit. All right, so there we go. Now we still have the ace left. I believe ace I put as 14 actually. So we're just going to do, if it's 14, return ace of. And I know it seems weird because like, oh, you haven't done that yet, but later on I did do that in my other code, and if I start messing with it in the middle of this video, it's not going to go well. Okay, so now we have all the different situations. Again, written 2 different ways, so you can see how they correlate. One is a little bit shorter, nicer to look at, I think. But if you have multiple things in there, maybe not as good. And again, the point of this one is so that I can just say, hey, print card, and let's just say the number was 4, and the suit was diamonds. It should say 4 of diamonds. Now I'm going to have to do an alert on this because there is, again, no alert. There's nothing actually printing this to the screen yet. So this right here is going to replace with that. Maybe if I hover, yeah, there you go. You can kind of see. No, it doesn't really tell you too much in this one. It's kind of hit or miss sometimes. Let's go save. It's just saying clubs. That's not helpful. Yeah. A silly little mistake. I see what it is. Right here in line 23, this should be card num. There we go. There we go. 4 of diamonds. That's exactly what I want. And then if we refresh this, it's always going to say 4 of diamonds because there's no random in there. Okay, we're good. All right. So now all I have to do is say print card, and then we're going to get that card number, the suit. Notice that we have a way to get the suit. We have a way to get a random number. So far, all of this will create us our cards. And now all we have to do is say, hey, print card, and boom, those things are there for us, which is awesome. All right. And again, right now I know this looks a little bit scattered. We're going to make this into a game soon enough. Don't you worry. I'm going to delete that because I know it works. Let's go into this determine if cards are a pair. So this is our Boolean functions. So what I want to do is just take two cards and see if the numbers match. So that's it. So I'm going to call function and is pair. And I'm going to say num1, num2 is my parameters. And hey, just going to compare those two. So what I want to say, it's either true or false. They are either equal or they're not. So I want to compare num1 versus num2. Now this will give me either a true or false statement. Like if it's 3 and 3, true. And I just want to return true or false. I don't want to return like yes or no. The computer doesn't know what that is, but it does know true or false. So I'm going to return true or false. And that's what this does. This actually turns into true or false. And that's it. That one's done. That was easy. The next one though, determine if cards are a flush. So cards are a flush when the suits match. So it's going to be function and is flush. And it's going to be the same thing, but this time it's going to be suit 1, suit 2. And same thing, I want true or false. So I want to just put in two suits and tell me yes or no. And that's the equivalent of true or false. So I'm going to go suit 1, is it equal to suit 2? That's it. And again, that's going to say yes, true or false is what that's going to turn into. So I'll do a return. So it's going to return yes or no, so true or false. That's it. And again, that's at the end of the game, we can compare. And finally, determine what is the highest card in your hand. So if both people have a flush, then you have to figure out, hey, who has the higher card then? So we need a function that we can just easily say, this is the highest card. So I'm going to call get highest. And so I'm just going to compare two numbers. So I want to see the two cards. Which one's the highest? And there's already a function for this actually. It's just called math.max. And what it'll do is it'll just compare some values. And it'll tell you which one's the biggest one. So here I want to compare number 1 and num2. And if I put more values, we just compare more. So this is going to do between these two, it's going to say, hey, num1 is the biggest. And what it'll spit out is the number. So if this was 3 and this was 2, then, or let's just use the numbers there. This is 2, this is 1. This whole thing is just going to turn into 2. And so I want to return that value. I want that value. I want to know that's the biggest card I have in my hand is a 2. And there we go. That is the game utilities part. Now the thing is, we actually want this to be in usable here. So this is much faster to code. The other thing is, we don't want these two interacting. We don't want, oh, how do I explain this? We want this to be kind of on its own. It's called encapsulated. So we don't want this to be reliant on something in here. We want it the opposite. Everything in here can be reliant on this stuff. So that way, if you're doing something similar, you can actually reuse all of this code, which is a huge thing in coding, is being able to reuse stuff. So this is where we're going to actually make this into a class so it becomes reusable. So which means if you're doing another project, you're like, hey, I already made a function that did that. You could come and grab this file and put it into your project. And hey, look at that. I've already got this here for me. So this is where I'm going to make what's called a class. Now we're going to spend a lot of time on classes. This video is already going to be super long. So we're not going to spend too much time in this video saying what class is. We're just going to make one. It's very easy. You write class, make a capital letter G, so it's not like a function, and then game utilities. And you make a curly brace, and that's it. Now that curly brace, I want all of this stuff to be in there. And again, I'm not going to explain in this video what a class is, but know that I'm now lumping all of these functions together, and they're kind of now all part of one thing, one accessible thing. It's kind of like I put them in a folder together, would be one way to look at it. Now this is also not going to explain here, but instead of function, I'm going to make this a static for all of these, which again, I'm not going to get into detail. It is required though for this to work in the way we want. So after you're done kind of making your own, that would be a good question to say, hey, why do we make that static? So every one of these functions, we'll make static. Or you can look it up and say, why are we making these functions static? There are still functions. And this does actually create one other little issue, and this is a very advanced issue. I actually need to go to where I called a function in a function. So that was right here in getSuit. I actually need to know that this getRandom is in this folder, is in this class. So I'm going to go this dot getRandom, and this is saying, hey, look in this class, look in this folder for this function. So, and it'll just tell it, hey, that's where I'm looking. That's how we're going to look at it right now anyway. And after this, this should all work. So if I hit save, nothing should happen because I haven't called anything. All right, so at this point, I'm going to end the video. We're going to go on and actually make the game now that we have all the tools made.